Please.
Anyway, hey, I'm here with Andy Suriano, who is kickstarting a new IP. I hate to sound so like corporate, but this is in reality, right?
Yeah.
Lost Company, a science fantasy transmedia. I don't know what the coolest way to say it now is anymore, but you had a great first week, it looks like, or your first few days. You are, there's more to come. So let's just first get into what is Lost Company.
Well, thanks, Derek. I really appreciate getting to talk with you. So, Lost Company is, at its core, it is a science fantasy epic about dwarves, elves, and aliens. And the sort of macro story is that these dwarves had built their homeland on top a crashed interstellar spaceship, which was then like leeching the life force from their homeland. So it's this group of dwarves who have to band together to find this alien artifact in order to save their home. And so it puts them on this collision course with a bunch of other characters and the Praxis Overlord, which is the main bad guy. And my goal with him was to make him really relatable, where you're almost like not sure who to root for. But Lost Company, Into the Everneath, yeah, I mean, it was born out of sort of my COVID isolation and I don't want to say depression, but yeah, I mean, obviously, being quarantined during COVID wasn't great, for a lot of us, but playing Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder online, through Zoom with my friends was definitely the lifeline. And I was like, there's a story here. And I'd already been doing this sort of prosy illustration forward thing with the dwarves, but I took that and I really, I wanted to break it down and then, craft a story that had heart, humor, spectacle. I'm not sure if there's that much humor, but it definitely is a story, like a personal story. It's about heart. It's about inspiration. It's about never giving up, perseverance, but it's sort of disguised in this big science fantasy epic. And because I'm crazy, I didn't stop at just the comic book. So as of right now, it's a 200-page graphic novel, and with more pages to come. And then I was looking at all sort of my interests and my my history and career, which is I did a lot of consumer products. Obviously, I've been in animation for quite some time, and I sort of combined it all. And so along with the book, we have original miniatures based on the characters in the book. We've made playable encounters that are very system agnostic, so people that might have never played D&D can just jump in and they have this story as a starting point. Also have some original art as well, but so I would say it's like a cross-platform multimedia immersive experience in the most pretentious way possible. So.
Well, I mean, that's what I found fascinating. Not only are there's a massive hardbound book graphic novel that will have this, but the game part of it, I admit it, and our mutual friend Shannon Denton will probably be like, oh, Derek, I've played D&D twice in my life, and that was like 40 years ago. Oh my god, I just realized how long it's been. So I'm a terrible gamer, but I'm fascinated by this game. So what are the challenges when you're creating the graphic novel? You've got this clear storyline, and then you're already adapting into game.
Yeah. And the thing is, I want to make sure people that have never played the game, they have an opportunity to, but they don't need to. Like the story itself is contained within the graphic novel. The adventures or the encounters and some of the minis are sort of tangential. It's like a tangential like experience that hopefully makes the world that the Lost Company exists in a lot more like fleshed out and well-rounded. So you're seeing like other parts of this universe and perhaps, you know, other races and you know, I got to flesh out stuff that I maybe just mentioned in the book in these encounters. But again, you know, yeah, I remember I tried playing D&D like 40 years ago, and I was not good at math, and that's all it looked like to me. So I collected, you know, I collected the minis and the books for the art, and it wasn't really, you know, in the past, like 10 years or so that I really started getting back into it. And you know, it's a steep learning curve, and I didn't want to put that on. I know a lot of people coming to this Kickstarter were or Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fans, and I know a lot of them don't necessarily, you know, aren't necessarily coming to play D&D. So, you know, I put together something that is hopefully accessible enough and that gives people a jumping off point. And people that have played D&D, that have campaigns going, they can take it and they can flex it into their campaigns. You know, the
Very cool.
Stats are very, you know, compatible. And that's the other things. Like there's barely any math in this. There's barely any numbers. It's just like, hey, here you get to play as this faction that their goal is to get to here. And I include like maps and little you know, player tokens and things like that. And the coolest thing, which is something I always wanted to do, was to be able to play a game from two different points of view. So for instance, like our first one, it's dwarves versus goblins. They each have an objective and they're both in the right in their own way. So you can play as the dwarven faction and you have this, you know, you have this task ahead of you, or you can play as the goblins who have an equally as important goal to achieve as well. And so that really fascinated me. And that was sort of where the main antagonist of the book comes in, where I really wanted to show, you know, quote unquote villains point of view and be like,
it's complicated.
Yeah,
I mean, you can sort of tell that. I mean, I think it's a great trailer on the Kickstarter. You could tell, and you already alluded to, of course, you know, in your credits, you've done Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You worked on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse,
Samurai Jack, Star Wars, Clone Wars, Mickey Mouse shorts.
Well, Mickey Mouse, there we go. We were bonding over that earlier. If you go to, you know, Disneyland right now, your work is all over the place in Toontown. So, you know, you're no stranger to animation storytelling, and that trailer reminded me a lot of, and I hope this is complimentary, you know, Wizards, which was a movie that blew my mind
100%
when I was a kid. And, you know, I'm feeling that, you know, getting the vibe. So
Thank you. No, that's great, man. Recently just watched that again with a group of friends, the same group of friends that I play D&D with online. You know, they're all over the country now. So we meet once a year up in Idlewild. We rent a cabin and we hunker down without our families and just play from morning to night. But yeah, that we put that on the very first night after some, you know, after some fun was had. And I mean, I like to think it's like part that the Rankin Bass Hobbit is another big influence, which, you know, and that was the thing, like, you know, Paul Rudish, who is like the main creator of Mickey Mouse shorts, and I'd worked with him on Samurai Jack, and he's probably, you know, the main designer on Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab and Symbionic Titan. But we go way back. But he's part of this group, and he's part of these miniatures and the Lost Company sort of company as a whole. His designs are incredible. So what happened? A lot of the minis were spawn out of, we go to the shops, we just see these, hyper aggro, kind of grossly detailed miniatures, and we're like, no one's making these miniatures with personality and design aesthetics that we like. And so I was like, let's just make it let's make them ourselves. And so that's where that came in. And then luck would have it. And so, it's been years since I was like playing around with, different sculpts and different sculptors and printers and things like that. And it just so happened everything sort of gelled together. Especially, Mike Evans, who was a creator of Stonehaven Miniatures, who had just recently sold it. I've kept in touch with him because we're kindred spirits in terms of sort of design aesthetics on tabletop miniatures. And I would always buy his stuff, and probably more than my wife liked, but so it's a way. But he became.
I feel the pain.
Yeah,
I do understand.
Yeah. She still doesn't know how much some of these pages are. So
we're not gonna.
Yeah.
What's money?
Yeah. But no. So Mike Evans, he became free, and so we partnered with him, and he's been cranking out these amazing designs. But I mean, shoot, man, I don't know if we can't really show anything, but like this is like, look at this, is like a Paul Rudish orc, which is very much the Rankin Bass style.
I love it. And you're the second interview that I've had this month, or I guess 2 weeks ago in October, where this became the key thing. The Rankin Bass. So so if I can shout out to Wicked Town, that's an influence on the artist there, Andrea Daly. But I love those miniatures. So, I mean, let's push this out that, like, even if you're not a gamer, and I freely admit, I already confessed on this, I'm not, the miniatures look so cool.
Yeah, put them on your desktop.
So you get toys.
If you're a painter, you can paint them, like, let's see. I mean, included, Paul and I, this one I did all the art, but like they come in these cool, cool packaging. It gives you like a cool sort of initial prompt, like a couple sentences worth of like, hey, here's a scenario that these two characters find themselves in. So most of these sets are like, hero versus, like goblin versus dwarves. We were talking about that earlier. And this one specifically is another, encounter that is, there's a dwarven highwayman that's sort of, in the way of this goblin battalion trying, dragging their cart across, trying to get provisions back to their camp, so you both, you can play as both of them, and they're cool. And like I said, Paul Rudish did a lot of the villains on here, and then I did a lot of the heroes, and we combined them, and so it's a really cool thing. And if you're just a fan of art in general, or like those giant maquettes, like Gentle Giant, like Gentle Giant did a lot of our Samurai Jack and Star Wars Clone Wars and stuff, and they had a very specific aesthetic. And so if you like that aesthetic, if you're just just put them on your tabletop and just enjoy that next to your computer, or whatever other action figures that you have up there. So.
But before we wrap this up, obviously you've got this animation background, and it's an IP. So are you, hoping this then becomes? Are you willing or interested in taking this to maybe even indie? Because I think this is just the way we're all going to head now. I
think so.
Are you going to spend time doing that?
Yeah, I mean, hence the Kickstarter. There's something so freeing after working on such big licensed properties for so long. You have to stay within certain parameters, even though I definitely pushed it probably more so than traditional Turtles fans liked or to their comfort. But as an artist, I always want to try to push and create these worlds. And so this Lost Company was a opportunity to world build in a way that was so freeing. And, you know, it was the very first time in a very long time that I just enjoyed the process of making. You know, usually it's, you know, you have a deadline ahead of you. You have, you know, you got to worry about ratings. You got to worry about toy sales, things like that, where, you know, I just wanted to draw for again, you know, and it had been so long. And so, the way the industry is going, and all industries, you know, all entertainment is headed right now, you know, I don't think anyone actually knows where it's heading, but right now it's sort of on fire. It's been on fire for a few years. And so, you know, I think, you know, the time is right for, you know, I don't know if people remember like the old 90s like independent movies. You know, that's where like Reservoir Dogs and stuff came out of, or Tao of Steve, or just you know, cool indie movies. And I think now is the time where creators should be doing that. And so this was an opportunity to do that. And, you know, would I like to see it animated? Of course. You know, I did a test piece of animation with an amazing animator friend of mine, and we both sort of built this thing out just to see it move. It looks great. You know, I think, you know, if we want to do that, we're ready to do that. You know, all my friends obviously are in animation and ready to go, and dying to work on something really cool, you know, like something that's stylistic and just, you know, that isn't just shilling, you know, another product, which is kind of funny, you know, seeing as though I'm, you know, I have miniatures that I'm trying to sell too.
But look, if you love a property, especially in animation, right? Everybody wants the figure. The fans do, I should say, you know.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong here, no judgment here, and very excited because I believe and hope that you're right. You know, that we're going to see a renaissance of indie film and indie animation, and people taking risks, because the colder the rest of it gets, the more calculated, you know, the more we want that human. We know this is a human communicating with us. So
thank you for I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you, but you're going to say something else.
I just was going to say, like, hence the Kickstarter. And of course, you know, I do have a goal in mind that if we hit it, then I can produce animated shorts. You know, I'm primed to do that, but it's not cheap. And so at the very least, I can put out a really cool story in a hardcover format that I really like. You know, I see it more as a hardcover instead of trade paperback, but you know, at the very least, we're going to get that. We're going to get the minis out there, depending on how the last 48 hours go. You know, right now we have 8 days left. The Kickstarter ends on the 13th, technically the 14th by like 6 a.m. So like the 13th,
I better get on to backing this then. It's very clear, you know. So
so we're really hoping, you know, the last 48 will grab people that might be waiting or holding out until it's almost over. We have really cool stuff that is ready to get unlocked as well. A lot of Turtles fans, we're really excited. We have some questionable stylistic aliens that appear, and you know that are, you know, of a tortoise type race. I know they're right now we have 3 of them that have been unlocked. I know people are clamoring for at least a 4th one, and you know, it all depends on you know, how we can go, because
it's a geriatric altered samurai.
For sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's no resemblance to any other. Okay,
no,
good. I wish you all the best on this. This is so exciting, and thank you for taking time. And
thank you so much.
All the links. We'll go.
We went to war all across the severed veils. We thought ourselves good, but the damned is what we were. But sometimes damnation gives you a boon. It was the wicked that had good intentions. We were deafened by the drums of war. The lines between good and evil became smeared like blood on the battlefield. We scoured the deeps, lost In the darkest depths, friendship was our only light. We were the Lost Company.
Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any Fanboy Planet video content. And visit fanboyplanet.com for other features, reviews, interviews, previews, and of course, listening to the Fanboy Planet podcast. And remember, use your powers for good.